Welcome back to The Ether, the show that disrupts the way you think about running your business. Join me, Brandon, and my co-host, Sean Delaney, the creator of What If, on today's episode. Our goal is to provide context around what we talk about so you have the clarity to cut through the noise and the confidence to grow and run a truly harmonious business. Let's jump in and take the next step to achieving business freedom. Hey. So today we are going to give loads of context on this episode, but we're also, most importantly, going to throw lots of rocks at people.
Throw rocks. Ouch.
Do you want to hear the title of this episode? I know we kind of talked about the topic, but do you want to hear the title of it?
I don't know if I do. Yes, hit me with it. Get it?
Here it is.
We're throwing rocks. What is it?
I'll hit you with this rock. Why you should never hire a fractional executive. How is that for throwing rocks potentially at ourselves?
Please do. We don't live in a glass house. Throw away, my friend. Let's go.
So Let's roll. Yeah, it's so let's give some context behind this and then we'll get into the discussion. But this came up. This was sort of an impromptu episode. I went to this meeting. It was a round table for fractional executives, in particular COOs, hence why we were attending. I was attending.
Hence, and it was your attendance.
Hence. It was all about, different, how are you handling your time, balancing the marketing of yourself and your services, delivery to clients, what that looks like, how many clients you have, and how you balance that time too. And I thought that's a really cool topic, like to understand how people are doing this at a very high level.
Sounds to be the things that a fractional COO would be concerned about, thinking about, dealing with.
Yeah, really any fractional executive. And there were a couple other. There was some CROs, some CMOs, CFOs in the room. So it was, there was a mix of everybody. But we got into these breakout sessions. And what I quickly came to realize was we are overusing the term fractional. So in terms of what a true fractional executive would look like, we'll get into defining that as what it should be. But there were people in this room who were basically glorified VAs, and they're working for multiple companies for very low rates, like VA type rates, or maybe like part-time business manager-y type rates. But they're doing things like answering emails, scheduling appointments. There was one guy who was handling the sales activities, sales calls, marketing. He was writing up Facebook ads. And I'm like, none of this is really, you should, yes, oversee it, but you shouldn't be doing this work as a fractional COO. And it blew my mind. So that's why I was like, we have to understand, what is a true fractional executive? What is a fractional COO? And what are the things you need to ask people and require from people before you bring them on as a fractional executive? So I'll leave that with you. How does that stuff sound? Because you've been in this world a little bit longer than I have, obviously.
Yeah. So when I first started saying fractional COO, there were very few people saying that. And it was something that stopped, so much so that it would stop the conversation and get people's attention. They go, oh, that's interesting. Like someone could literally describe, I'm a consultant focused on, and then name everything that a fractional COO does, and people would glaze over because I'd hear consultant. And then I'd say, well, I'm a fractional COO. And they'd go, oh my God, tell me more, lean in. And then I would describe the exact same thing that guy over there said. And he's going, hey, I didn't get this kind of love. And they're like, this is fascinating. All because fractional COO was a different lens on that kind of work, And so early on, that is what that translation was. It is consultants who do this type of work and get this deep into this, but you don't need, or a person who does these functions, these jobs to be done, but instead of being inside your company because you are big enough or complex enough that you need somebody full-time with a staff, now I don't need that, so I need a portion of that. Great. And it was really targeted. The same thing, and now it has become what we see it's become, because a cool title that means some things, a lot of things, unfortunately means somebody could find themselves in it. Oh, does a fractional COO touch anything with marketing? Of course they do. Great, because I'm a marketer. I'm going to start calling myself a fractional COO. This happened to us in our very room, if you recall, not that long ago, where we're talking to somebody about what we do, and they're going, "That's fascinating. Tell me more." And then 2 weeks later, they say, "I've had an epiphany. I'm now a fractional COO." I thought you were a marketer. Yeah, but you talk marketing. We do. And I agree with all the ways that you talk about marketing. Yeah. And it should touch everything in their business. Well, I didn't say that. I said it should be connected. Yeah. I heard you. And it should run everything. Well, I certainly also didn't say that. So I am a fractional COO. Wait, what happened? in a search for relevance in approximate to this term you like that sounded so great when we said what we do, you want to be a part of that, but you can't play all those instruments. So you have one instrument and now you're calling yourself a band. You're not a band. Yes, you talk music. I play music. You do, but you're not a band. Yes, I am, because music and the way to describe music is a band. Yeah, but you're not one. I get that you love it and want to be it, but you're not really it. It would serve you better if you knew your place in relation to it and spoke about and to those people from that position, your position of authority. That didn't happen. This is like with chiefs of staff when they started to become all the rage. The first time I was going to be in a chief of staff role, the very first question I asked was, I know what I mean when I say chief of staff. But what do you mean when you say chief of staff? Because I had seen already with that, the chiefs of staff could mean one of two things. They were either the White House chief of staff or a chief of staff who is, I am the person when they are not in the chair. I am de facto running things with their authority. So it's not my authority. I understand my place in the world and I know how to navigate that and effectuate change for that person and run all the things and take bullets for them and deflect, but they get all the credit. That person, or a glorified secretary who will tell you that you have a meeting at 2 and might get you a sandwich. There are people that are treating that position that way. And you're like, we haven't called it a secretary anymore who gets them their sandwich. I knew people at the time alive in the world who thought that way, and that was their chief of staff. So you can imagine, I don't know what I'm applying for. So which is it? Because I'm here for the first one. I'm nowhere near the second one. But everybody was loving the title and then wanted to call themselves that. I'm a chief of staff. Are you? But what do you mean by that? Well, it sounds cool. It sounds like I have a lot of authority. And what do you do? I monitor the calendar and I book appointments. And when the phone rings, I answer it. You're not a chief of staff. You're very valuable. You're not a chief. You're not that thing. So it sounds like you ended up in a room of fractional COOs. They really just mean business has many jobs to be done, and I do these 3. As opposed to, and I do all of them, but I'm not inside your walls. Therefore, you don't have 100% of my time. So therefore, I am a fractional COO. No, they don't mean that. They should mean that. That's what it is.
Yeah, it was very much I'm going to call myself this because fractional is a hot term. And I will basically just ask what you need me to do or what you need help with and say I do all of those things and probably do most of them poorly. Well, and that's kind of where the conversation ended up going, because a lot of the people who were sharing kind of what they do, it was, I'm kind of maxed out on 1 or 2 clients. I'm working 20, 30 hours a week for these clients. And that would be fine if you're being paid appropriately. But like I said, I mean, they're not being paid C-level salaries, even on a fractional basis, because they're trying to do everything and be all things to all people. So they've set no boundaries. They have no time to market themselves. They're overworked in these companies. And these companies, whoever they are getting a sweet deal. on these
Yeah.
people. I will say that because they're working hard. They want to do well for their clients. I'm not saying anything about their quality of work, but the direction, the focus of that engagement, and really the strategic value in that person is nowhere to be found. And that shocked me.
It's and this is muddying the waters for everybody, and is impacting our ability to give clarity to entrepreneurs who are looking for it, because they're saying, I need help. I've heard a fractional insert whatever is a great idea, and then they go there, and what they're finding is that most of those people are the same consultants that were there 3 weeks ago. They just changed how they changed their marketing, essentially, is all they're doing. They didn't up their game. They didn't learn how to take on more responsibility. They didn't get extra certification. They didn't get extra experience. They didn't transform in any way, shape, or form. They just changed their marketing. So it's inauthentic, and it's muddying the waters. And it makes people then not trust real fractional executives, because they're like, I've tried that before. It's like there's somewhere out there's one great lead gen appointment setter, and all the people doing that, claiming to do that, hitting me up on Facebook all day, every day. Hey, have you ever considered it? Ever considered it? Fourth time today, because you won't shut up about it.
I guarantee 20 leads a week for you. Yeah. Okay.
You're the answer to the question nobody's asking. Leave me alone. I didn't. And that's nutty. I am sure the people who are great at that are really pissed at those people, because they heard a good story and said, I can do that. No, you're not doing the same thing, and you're certainly not getting results. So you're just making it hard for the people that are. It's true. I mean, it's true of any profession, essentially, really. Somewhere out there, as George Carlin used to say, statistically, somewhere in the world, there is the world's worst doctor. And tomorrow someone has an appointment with them. I mean, that is true. So yes, the bad ones ruin it for everybody, but
and that's happened to us too, which is a part of the reason why I wanted to talk about this a little bit. A recent conversation I had, it was a sales call, and the person's like, I don't know, I've had a fractional COO before. Honestly, they just made things more confusing in my business. I asked a couple of questions, and it turns out they were an EOS implementer. If you've heard this show before, if you've heard me speak for more than 3 minutes, I'm sure you've heard me say, I hate EOS. I hate everything about it. I've used it in my past company. It's a bunch of garbage. That's enough for this rant. But there were those people in this room, and it's the same thing. You can pay money to be, air quotes, certified as an EOS implementer, integrator, whatever dumb terms they use. And you basically are nowhere better than you were before. They train you to use an out-of-the-box model that they want you to fit on every single business. Nothing is customized for your client, the person you're working for. And I've heard both from myself, from other companies, and from now people on sales calls that all it does is cause more of a headache. And you get 6 months in with these people, and you're actually worse off than when you started. So
yeah,
today, what I want to answer is, how can you, or what should you be asking the fractional executive you are about to hire? We can speak from the COO role. We know CMOs, we know CFOs. So a lot of these questions are general based on the discipline that we're talking about. But what are some things us as clients, people listening to this, can ask if they want to hire a fractional somebody?
Well, first I want to know, you want the typical questions answered, like where have they had success with clients like you, right? Have you done the thing that you're telling me that you're going to do for me, for anyone else?
A training program. I'm good. I'm certified.
Right. Have you done it for anyone else? And then, yes, it is good to know, do you have a methodology? No, man, I just wing it everywhere I go. All right. I don't know if I want to pay for that as much as, yes, we run the harmonious business architecture, and this is how we set things up, and this is how we connected things. Great. And how long is it going to take? What kinds of demonstrable results? What are the metrics we're going to be changing so that I know better or worse in the period of time that you say that you're going to tackle some problems? What are the specific problems that we are going to change? Right, and not leads will go up. From where? Quality of a buy, how much? How are you going to do that? Oh, I'm going to detonate a bomb off the coast of California and draw a lot of attention. That's not the same thing. That doesn't equate. No, it'll be a lot of eyeballs on what you're doing. It's going to be fantastic. No, I prefer not. So, do you understand my brand? Do it right. So you're looking for. Are they going to be able to understand you? And are they going to be able to help you solve those biggest problems because they have done that for someone else? And so it's the same questions we get. Who have you worked with? Well, we did this kind of thing for companies like you. But what if I want to scale? Well, this is the same thing we did for Nike and Uber and J&J when we had clients like them. Oh, okay. So you know huge business. Yes. But you've worked with small businesses. Yes. And here are some of them you can go look at. Okay. And do you have a methodology? We do. It's an acronym. It's beautiful. It's glorious. Makes sense. You will have structure in the world. You're already smarter just having this conversation. Ooh, that's cool. All right. And I can look at it and I know, and how long are we going to work together? It's going to be a 90-day sprint. And what are we going to change in those 90 days? The very thing that your diagnostic told us was wrong in your business and where those pains then show up. So we know the problem is here. We're going to remove that problem here. And we're going to alleviate the pain that you're feeling here, here, and here by 20% here, 30% here, 45% here. That sounds incredible. Yes. And if we don't do all that after you do everything we say, we'll give you your money back. You guys are the greatest. You must really know what you're doing. All we do. And that's that would be how I ask those questions. That's why we're able to answer those questions, because I expect them to be asked. And it's because we also don't want any nonsense or shenanigans, because we don't want people who are going to come to us and have us either yes them for a year and a half and take their money, because what they're really looking for there is community, or the confidence that somebody's looking over the shoulder saying yes, that what you're doing is right, whether it is or it isn't. That's a different client. We don't want them as clients, because our reputation, knowing how many bullshit EOS implementers there are out there in the world calling themselves what we are because it sounds great, back to the beginning of the conversation, it's going to muddy the water. So we have to approach it differently and find the clients who actually want to be able to fix those awful problems that they have with the confidence that we've played in big enough arenas that our methodology is going to work for them. So now they have confidence that they can go and fix those things. We give them clarity right off the bat with the diagnostic. So now they have hope. They can already see the way there. And we agree on those are the problems. You guys definitely can fix it. Here's the times and ways that we've done it before. Cool. And we know we're only committed to 90 days. That's them on the looking for downsides. I quantified the loss should the whole thing go south. I get my money back, and I've only lost 90 days. Should things not go right. So that. I don't know.
Well, let's flip it around too, because I think there's some value in asking questions the other way. And this would be for all the people who are aspiring fractional executives or EOS implementers and get away from that system and do something yourself. But the questions that you would want to ask, that we ask of our clients to determine, and I'll seed the answer basically, but if people have no idea what's going on in their business and they're just looking to throw money at somebody so they can fix it, bad client. So what are some of the things that we ask and others can ask of the actual business owner to understand where they're at in their business and their willingness to change, and also participate in the change, not just have somebody else do it?
Well, yeah. Well, we get at that in several ways. The very first thing is when we're asking you to take a diagnostic, an 8-minute diagnostic.
Yeah, I'll talk it on the screen. Go ahead. Go take it.
If we ask you to do that first and we tell you we'll only work with you if you do that first, and and the first thing you say is, "Can't I just tell you what the problems are?" No, because I now don't even want you as a client, because the very first thing, 8 minutes to get clarity as to where the real problem is, you can't handle that. Oh, I told you I'm very, very busy and I'm very smart and I already know exactly where the problem is. You are already resisting what we are saying. So, not a good client right off the bat. But then another a clue might be that when we say in our due diligence, have you tried to fix this problem before? Yes, I told you it's been a persistent problem for 11 years. I've had this problem. Okay. And what have you tried to do to fix it? Because I'm looking, did I try the same thing 11 times? Or did I try 11 different things? How do I approach those problems? Am I conflating problems? Like, why is this problem being persistent as we're getting there? If they say, well, I hired 27 consultants just like you saying the same things, and they're all terrible. But because you said A, B, or C, or you've done A, B, or C, I'm now having this conversation with you to see if you might finally have the answer.
That
No,
one sounds like a direct quote. Did I hear that right?
no, you are a bad client. Because unless you show up to that saying, well, I hired 26 people and I realized I am sitting here thinking everyone else is terrible. The only place I haven't looked is in the mirror. So I got to get out of the way. And
I want to work with that person
I'm
right now.
trusting that's like, oh my God, I don't even need to know what the problem is. I'll help you with anything.
I'll pay you to let me work with you because that would be an easy conversation.
Epiphany. If they say that, then I'm okay there. But if they're saying, well, or if they are very set on what the answer already is and want us just to deploy said answer for them, effectuate that exact product, also a bad client. Because we don't absolutely know what the problem is yet until we start poking at it, because you could tell us problems over here and then it shows up over here. We know we're going to get at the problem. So we know what problem we're going to fix. We don't necessarily know. We can agree where we start digging, but we might find something else. Fair. So it's like you have work done in your house. There's a plan when the drywall's up, and then that plan very well may change when that drywall comes down. Because how many times have I been going back to the hardware store when my wife says, I thought you had everything to fix it. Yeah. I didn't know about I don't know what this guy was doing, but that's not up to code. I'm going back to the hardware store. You don't know what's going to be there, right? Those 1-hour projects become an all-day thing once those floorboards come up and you say, what mad lunatic put these pipes together? Like, so, that's also a sign they're a bad client, because they already know exactly what the problem is and they just want you to come in and fix that specific thing. They're not open to the fact that we might have to rip and jam to get the answer there. And yes, they might be part of the problem and they just can't see it. If they're open to hearing that, we can fix just about anything.
Yeah, the floorboards thing is an interesting conversation. That happened to me with one of our clients a few months ago, where everything was great. They wanted help with streamlining their operations, so they would be scalable and didn't require too much time, which is all fantastic. We fix that stuff every single day with people. And then we get in, they have paid us, we're into this engagement, and 2 weeks in, PS, we have no cash flow. And I'm like, hang on, what?
Yeah.
You can't surprise me with we have no money and very little revenue and expect me to like have options to fix this problem. Like, that's something you lead with in the diagnosis phase of going to the doctor. I'm missing a limb. Okay,
it's a great yeah, it's a great conversation before the engagement starts. This is for any fractional. I'm sure anybody knows this, but if you're just starting out, is to ask that. If nothing else, it sort of covers you in the end when something isn't disclosed. But ask that open-ended question of, now, if there is a body here, I am going to find it. So before we start digging up the backyard, is there anything else that I might find that might impact this story, the truth? Because you've painted this picture and we now know the result of it here. But if there is something that's there, you've got to tell me. It's the same thing you would do as a lawyer with your client. So we're going with not guilty. Oh, yeah, we're going with not guilty. And you swear that I wasn't there. Now, if I find out that there's a body in your basement, oh, shucks, you caught me. Okay. Like, that's not. So you have to say, like, because you're not going to think to always ask the question. There were enough times early in my career where I had to have the conversations like, wait a minute. You don't actually own the IP, right? Or wait a minute. It actually doesn't work. Oh, it didn't. That changes everything. There, you have broken my trust. First, but second, we've been digging in the wrong place, and how ridiculous! Like we're not gonna do that. So it behooves you because your reputation is on the line as a fractional to ask that big giant open like, what is the question that you are hoping I don't ask before we. I'm hoping you don't actually ask if we have any cash flow. Okay. All right. I'm glad.
Thank you.
Thank you for telling me that now. Now we can have the appropriate conversation. Thank you for telling me there's a body in the basement. You're going to get a different lawyer. I can advise you on who to find, but right. You can have those conversations.
It's from both sides too. Cause even from the client perspective, like if you're coming to anybody and asking for help, but you don't disclose all of the symptoms, if you will, I mean, the help changes. I have not gotten to the point of making people sign an NDA to talk about their business. We may phase that in. I'm just going to put that out there because to make people feel even more secure. But what I do not do is there's no note takers and there's no recordings of any meetings prior to exchanging money, because I don't even want to have that on the table that I may use this or something about their reputation may be tarnished. So everything we say between each other has no record technically of that happening, because I want that open dialogue to eliminate the conversations of there's 4 bodies in my basement after the fact. It's just helpful for everybody. So if you're going to hire somebody, if you're going to go to the doctor, please tell them everything that's going on so that they can actually help you.
Well, I on the other hand have signed and been made to sign many NDAs, but it's interesting that you bring it up because those are only the large companies.
Mm-hmm.
Because they know there's bodies there. What do you think this foundation's built on? We don't get this. You don't get this big without there being some bodies. So they know, and they don't want everyone to know because their brand is everything is perfect. I don't agree with that. I think it goes a long way with people if you say, hey, we screwed something up, or hey, we're trying to make something better. And you can't always just put a happy face on it, hose that ride down and get it moving,
I love it.
We've got children to make happy. So
all right, last question then, because this is all good stuff for someone in the market to hire a fractional, a consultant, whatever you need help with. Ask these questions, and also for those people in the fractional space, ask those questions of the potential clients, so you can make sure it's a good fit for everybody. All we want is success for both parties. That's really our purpose behind this episode.
First question: if you're dealing with anything that's well, I don't even know if it's trendy now to say fractional, but define this thing. Define what it is. When you say it, how far does it go? How far does it expand? And then you just remove the title from it. Just tell me by explaining what you're going to do for me and how far that scope goes and what I can expect.
So let's try to identify real clearly who this is for, because I think this also cures a lot of the misconceptions in the marketplace. What are the types of companies, size, scale, revenue, profit? I don't know. You tell me who are actually qualified to hire what is a true fractional executive?
I can't answer that. I mean, because you can I can't authentically answer that, because you could be a legitimate value provider and fractionate what you do to be accessible. I mean, it could be crazy however you do it. I'm not your life, but you could actually deliver value at very small doses and provide just what those companies need and look very different than a fractional COO who has 2 clients and spends half a week with each one. Those could look wildly different price points, both very appropriate. So we can't throw rocks at anybody there for how they slice and dice and serve the market in that way. But I am talking about, that's not where the problem is. The problem is with the people who are glorifying what they do and allowing the people buying what they do that they're letting them live the lie that they bought something bigger than what they actually did. I'm really just a marketer who understands strategy and process, but I'm going to call myself a fractional COO and talk to the same people we're talking to. Both of us talking about a marketing problem, not realizing that the client, would only get a small percentage of what we're bringing to the table to the same problem. And that's not fair to the person trying to evaluate who they need. And we would then we have people coming to us for things that we say, we wouldn't do that. Why? You're a fractional COO. Oh, because you've been working with people who are working on the wrong things at the wrong level, who call themselves what we are. I understand. That's where the problem is, not so much the who would be appropriate for one.
Fair enough. I'll accept that answer. That was very authentic.
Bing.
That answer was the shit.
Thank you.
I love it. If you haven't seen that episode, it was 3 or 4 episodes ago about how to be authentic in business. Go check it out. Make sure you subscribe. Sean,
the acronym is the shit.
Out. It is the shit. We'll see you next week back on the ether.
See ya.